Well, we're in for a real treat today. I've been able to sit in here for the sound check. My brain has already been reordered by the music today. Kat Edmonson in the studio. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having us.
I've kind of longed for this in studio. The record is just beautiful. It's called The Big Picture, and Kat will be appearing tonight at the Blue Room with her band. And I just have to say right up front that Kat Edmonson is in town for one night only. And if you are caught up in I don't know what and want to watch something on TV tonight, that's why God invented DVRs. You need to go see Kat Edmonson tonight over at the Blue Room. The Big Picture, great CD. And I just have to feel like it's sort of it feels like it's what you've been building to all this time, almost to the point where what are you going to do next? Because this is so you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for saying that. Actually, I have a whole lot of ideas about what I'm going to do next. And a lot of them are developing on this tour as we're out on the road.
You seem like one of those people that absolutely from the very beginning was born to do this.
I felt like it. I felt like it since I was a little kid, actually.
Yeah, you told a story about, thinking when you saw Singing in the Rain, Gene Kelly, I can do that.
Yeah, in fact, it's wonderful. The thinking of a child is so pure and actually egoless. But as a young girl, all of 5 years old, I saw him on TV and I looked in the mirror and I thought, I'm just like him, and one day we'll be friends. I didn't realize that wouldn't be the case, but nevertheless, I knew that I was going to pursue the same sort of thing that he was pursuing.
So your mom set you up with a lot of these movies, and I don't know if she sort of knew what she was setting you up for, or if this was just, like the babysitter.
She thought I was going to be an actress, so when I dropped out of college after my first year and announced that I wasn't going back and I was going to be a singer, she was actually rather surprised. But I did sing. She's a wonderful singer, and I heard her singing around the house my whole life, and she was a great influence on me.
You mentioned dropping out of college. It was actually just registering for classes that kind of triggered that, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I dropped out. I left College of Charleston in South Carolina where I was going to school, and I moved to Texas, and I still really wasn't being totally honest with myself why I left South Carolina. I had eluded myself into thinking, it's because I'm going to be going to school in Austin, but the truth was I went to Austin because that's where I heard all the music was, and and that was my main purpose. So upon registering for classes in Austin, I was driving home and I heard some country singer on the radio. I don't remember who he is. And he sang about skipping school and playing music for his friends. And I was laughing to myself thinking, that's just like me. And then it dawned on me how frightening it was that I had just registered for classes and that I really didn't intend to go. And I frankly couldn't afford that. I was, like many people, taking out loans to pay for school. And I realized it'd be much more efficient if I just started doing the thing that I wanted to do. And so starting that day, I did. I answered an ad in the newspaper for a band looking for a singer. And I figured I had to start somehow. And it was kind of a bumpy road, but...
There's also that thing about, there's no motivation like not having a plan B.
I agree. I think it's important actually not to have a plan B, because then it really forces you to trust yourself and you know in your heart what you want to do. And if you know it and you follow it, I think it'll happen.
It's going to be a great show tonight. The Blue Room's an intimate little space, and it's going to be perfect for Kat Edmonson and her band. And we'd love to hear some music if we could.
Thank you. This one is called Who's Counting? Searching for something to which I can relate. Standing in a long line at the third departure gate. Your first or your last, it's still hurry up and wait. Crossing the ocean ain't no ordinary thing. 5,000 miles on a gigantic missile with wings. 1 minute to take off and the captain bell dings. I've got three decades as Sue and Jim's daughter. And it's been 4 years. 4 years I've been singing in the halls. And we've shared two anniversaries together. So who's counting, babe? Who's counting the tallies on the wall? Ooh, who's counting, baby? Who's counting anything at all? We try to be right, we try to be good, we try to be strong. It's never enough, it's always too much, and there's still something wrong. And yet in the meantime, we just keep moving along. It's been one entire life of miscalculations. And so many times that I've dropped the ball. But we don't know how many days we have here that we're not promised. So who's counting, babe? Who's counting the things that might befall? Ooh, who's counting, baby? Who's counting anything at all? 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 Anything at all? Who's counting anything at all?
That was just spectacular.
Thank
I
you.
really like that a lot. You really defy genres, and I think you kind of hate genre labels.
I do.
You've called yourself vintage pop, but that song I can't help but hear another one of your influences, Paul Simon.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think I think you can sing "Feeling Groovy" over that song, and it works. I shouldn't give away my secrets, but I didn't realize it until someone pointed it out to me after I'd recorded it.
You know, that's funny because I was thinking sort of like long after Art Garfunkel was gone that, he's done some stuff in the last few years, but it just has that sort of rhythm and that feeling and the phrasing. But it's a lovely song.
When I wrote it, I was listening to Rhythm of the Saints a lot, and I was driving through Europe, and there was a lot of time to think. And I was also just pondering a lot of things. One can feel rather lost on the road sometimes. You don't have all of your comforts around you, so you're often asking the question, what am I doing here? And that's really what that song is about.
The label Vintage Pop, I think, does one other thing that's sort of a little bit of a disservice to you. And that is, it sort of makes you think that, these songs were written a long time ago. You wrote 11 of the 12 songs on the new album.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I came up with that term, and I don't feel comfortable, as you say, in any genre. I just don't. But the reason why I came up with that term was because everyone was saying jazzy pop. And for whatever reason, that made me kind of cringe. But anything that someone uses to describe me, as long as they like it, I think it's, it's good, it's useful. And if it means something positive to them, then that's getting across, just as long as the word's getting out, I guess.
Well, people like Cole Porter and Irving Berlin and George Gershwin, there was songcraft there.
Yeah. And that's where my original influence came from.
I listened to an interview with you on NPR, and they asked you about the first song that you wrote when you were like 9 years old, and you sang it for them. And it's lovely, and it still works. It's just like everybody that ever gets asked that question wants to run and hide from those songs, but you wrote a pretty good song at the age of 9 years old.
Sure. I'd sell it to Nashville if somebody would take it. It was a country song called Mystery Man, and I never sat down and really analyzed songwriting until I got much older. When I started out at 8 or 9 years old, I was listening intently to music, and I would listen to records, and I would read the lyrics, and I would listen to various parts in the songs, and it all was very meaningful to me. And I don't remember the first time I ever started making up songs. I must have done this before I remember this entire song that I wrote, but I was just on a field trip one day on the bus, and I started sing a song about a mystery man. When God made him, I think he had a plan. And I was like, oh, that's a song. And that was the chorus, and then I knew that the verse had to be different, but I never thought about it. I just sang it, and then I was popular on the playground that day.
Well, and isn't that the goal?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I realized there was something in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just laughed so hard it just forced all the thoughts right out of my head. Yeah, the thing that is really interesting, your mother thought that you were just keeping a journal. And you were really writing songs, and you had all of this love for like the classic songwriters and for the classic film music of the 60s, and you hid that from your friends too. Yeah. Nobody really knew what you were doing.
I'm rather secretive, actually, and I not intentionally really, but when something's really important to me, I keep it to myself because. Why do I do that? I think it just always made sense to me that if anyone else had an opinion other than my own, I didn't need it. Like if I knew that I wanted to do something or if I cared about something, I didn't want to know what anyone else thought about it because I knew it was mine and that I was going to do it inevitably.
We're really happy that you're choosing to share with us today.
Oh, thanks.
We'd love to hear another song if we could.
Okay, thank you. Actually, this one's called You Said Enough, and on my record, The Big Picture, it's presented in this sort of, I was thinking of Henry Mancini in production. I was thinking of the Pink Panther or something, and it's a very sexy snappy tune, but the version that we're going to play today is actually the original arrangement that I wrote for the song. When I wrote the song, I heard it as a blues, and since we're in Kansas City, I think we'll do the blues. You told me I should wear your ring. You told me she was just a fling. You said you were a one-girl guy. Well, you said enough, now say goodbye. You talk and talk about your love, how there's no one else above, and how you didn't mean to lie. Well, you said enough, now say goodbye. I don't want to, but the thing I gotta do is walk away. 'Cause if I don't leave, I'll start believing something else you say. I hear you coming home to stay. Well, I heard the same thing yesterday.
That is just absolutely great. That's
Thanks.
so much fun. Kat Edmonson, our guest, she's playing tonight at the Blue Room. The new CD is called The Big Picture. We talked a little bit about film and your love of film. One of the songs off that was Rainy Day Woman, and the video is modeled stylistically after Charade and films of that sort of era. And, after having grown up watching all those films and being so inspired, I just was kind of curious what your feelings were when, you got that video back and there you are with the rain and the umbrella and it's your big eyes instead of Audrey Hepburn, and it's just like it did such a good job of capturing that era, and then you're in it.
Thanks. Well, I actually, my mom wasn't far off when she thought I was going to be an actress, because it's actually something I love to do. So any music video that I make, I'm having a ball. I have to say, when I watch Rainy Day Woman, I'm disappointed that I'm not looking at Audrey Hepburn. Because the truth was, I was thinking of Charade the whole time, and then the guy that directed the video was thinking of Blow Up. So we both had our influences for that video.
Well, it totally works. It's a great piece of work. People should find that on YouTube.
Oh, thank you.
The interesting thing was that, you had this love of music and you'd nurtured it from this very early age. But then, when you went to try to become a practicing musician, it's sort of like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I didn't know, but I still had that very childlike sense that it was just going to work out the same way I did looking in the mirror and thinking about Gene Kelly at 5. I just thought, well, every step I'll take, I'll get closer and closer to what it is that I'm trying to do. So the first thing I did was I went I went to an open mic, and upon singing at the open mic, the club offered me a Friday night residency there.
Wow. And
so I did that for a while. And then some weird, shady stuff happens in clubs, and I ended up leaving. People are going to wonder about that. The guy double booked me. He also booked another band. He wanted to see which one of us would bring more people. And it was kind of like whoever gets here first kind of thing. And I didn't appreciate it. So I was like, I'm taking this elsewhere. And then I went down to the Elephant Room in Austin, where I heard there was a jazz jam and you could sit in. And once again, I just sat in, and somebody said, hey, you should come back next week. So I started coming back, and every week that I went, I just took people's names and numbers, and I would call them during the week and say, hi, this is Kat, and where are you playing, and can I come to your gig? And then they would ask me to sit in, and then just within 6 months of doing that, I got my own regular gig. And all it took was that one gig on Wednesday nights at the steak restaurant to get me to quit my day job. I checked my health insurance, and I ate at the gig, and I managed somehow the rest of the nights. And I started just gathering gig after gig, and pretty soon I was doing it every night of the week. I also went on American Idol sometime before that. I was like 19, and that was an attempt to get in front of somebody. But that was much more about being on TV than a musical experience.
Right. And I think that it's like they don't say like American singer or American performer. They say American Idol. So they structure that around the fame, not about the content. So you're very lucky to have had a bad experience there.
Well, I had this whole strategy that I would go on, and then as they were handing me the bouquet of flowers or whatever, I would say, actually, I'm not going to be the American Idol. But then I had to sign a contract before I went on the show, and after I'd gone through several auditions, and it told me that I could not do that. In fact, they had precautions about that already. So so that foiled that plan, and then they voted me off anyway. And you're right, I'm very lucky because I love the course that my career has taken, actually.
You built your own career. You started off, with some of those people you'd called back in Austin, partnering up and creating your first record. And that led you to your second record, which, you got to work with, Al Schmidt, who has 20 Grammys, and also Phil Ramone dropped by shortly before he passed, actually.
Yeah.
And so that was, I'm sure, a real growth experience.
It was. I often think about Phil, actually, when I'm doing anything at all. He's a voice in my head now, and it's a guiding voice. He was incredibly encouraging, and it was a great pleasure to work with him.
And the most recent record, Mitchell Fromm, it's just such a throwback sound with the strings and the horns, and so beautifully produced. And when I first started doing research, and you started talking about the connection to film, I thought, yeah, whatever. And then as I did more research, I was like, no, this is really real. That was a real connection. And then for him to come in and give you the production values that you were clearly looking for and make that such a strong reflection in the recorded piece, it was that's strong stuff. It's
well,
good.
I hope Mitchell is listening, because he's a very humble man, very humble producer. But you're right on the money about all of that. He treated my vision perfectly, I think.
So often you get a record and, we listen to a tremendous amount of music. And a lot of times the stuff that we end up saying no to is the stuff where we think, well, that's not the artist, that's the producer. And for a producer to come in and realize your vision is really a gift. And so, yeah, great record. Really good,
thank you.
Really good record. And
Thanks.
the record we're talking about is The Big Picture. Kat Edmonson is our guest. She's playing tonight at the Blue Room, and you have a special opening act in Milton.
Yeah, my friend Milton is opening the entire tour with us. And I really took to his most recent record, Lady at the Bottom of the Hill. And it hasn't left my CD player for a year.
Wow.
And I one night when he was opening for me, where were we, in Rhode Island or Massachusetts? And I asked him to play his song with us in my show, because it was the first song that I fell in love with on the record. But I've since fallen in love with every single one of them. And I think other people will feel the same that haven't heard him.
And magically he appears.
Here he is. Oh, Milton, how did you get here?
I just happened to be in the neighborhood.
Wow. Will you tell us about the song that we're going to do?
Well, this song's called Ain't Been the Same, and like Kat said, it's from my most recent release, which is called Lady at the Bottom of the Hill. And in a similar sort of vein, I think if people meet Kat and I, they often think, well, the two of you as songwriters have nothing in common. You're a big dude with a raspy voice, and she's a small, beautiful person with a lovely voice. But we really actually have that love of vintage songwriting in common, and that's sort of something that we connected on as songwriting pals. It's great. This tour's been wonderful for talking shop. So this is of that sort of, if you would, a throwback to that older kind of American songbook style, and it's called Ain't Been the Same. Cops drive a big red truck. The black cats are bringing good luck. The rooster starts crowing just as the sun goes down. The peacocks all bashfully blush. The sloth's in a terrible rush. And it ain't been the same since my lady friend left this town.
Rain's falling up from the clouds. The quarry's soft and the library's loud. The king's in an old straw hat. The hobo wears a crown. The leaves are turning green in the fall. Napoleon is 7 feet tall. And it ain't been the same since my old man left this town.
The roses are blue, the violets are red. Salt tastes sweeter than wine. The wise men write that the best things in life are on sale for $2.99.
February was real hot in Duluth. The tabloids are printing the truth. Yeah, gas is getting cheaper and mimes talking stereo sound.
The sword out might hit the pen. The Cubs took the series again. And it ain't been the same since my lady friend left this town. Dostoevsky's light and gay. Einstein's playing the fool.
Minnesota Fats is riding tortilla flats. And Steinbeck's playing pocket pool.
They're serving ice cream hot off the grill.
The going's tough and the tough just stand still.
The Pentagon's a square.
Pyramids are perfectly round.
Every mother's work is always done.
The werewolves howl at the sun.
Ain't it a shame? Everything's upside down. And it ain't been the same since my lady friend left this town.
Oh no, it ain't been the same since my old man left this town.
I know it ain't been the same since my lady friend left this town.
Very nice. That is Kat Edmonson and Milton performing Milton's song from The Lady at the Bottom of the Hill. And of course, Kat's CD is The Big Picture, and I'm assuming you'll have both tonight at the show.
Yes.
And I said this at the very beginning. If there's anything else that might be distracting you tonight, it probably is on TV, and it's Why God Invented DVRs. Kat Edmonson, Milton opening up only in town for one night. So tonight at the Blue Room, make sure and go see this. It's an intimate space, and it's going to be an amazing show. Should introduce the rest of the band on guitar, Al Street, bass, Bob Hart, drums, Aaron Thurston, and of course, Milton and Kat Edmonson. I really want to thank you for coming in. It was awfully nice of you to come in and perform for us today. I know being on the road can be hard and tough. You're going town to town, and to make the time to come in and do an extra performance is really a gift.
We had a great time, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks for being so familiar with me.
Yeah, well, you know, that part of it's a joy. Absolute joy. Kat Edmonson, The Big Picture is a CD tonight at the Blue Room. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, John.